Good morning. Everyone suffers one way or another. But what are you gonna suffer for? What is your suffering gonna amount to? Are you gonna let your suffering waste away? And are you gonna be someone that lived their life and suffered for nothing? That would be tragedy. That would be tragic. It isn't tragic to suffer because suffering is a fact of life that we all know. Everyone goes through challenges and hardships and difficulties. Everyone goes through their worst moments. Everyone feels like their worst from time to time. But what is tragic is going through all of these and taking nothing away from it. It's going through all of these and letting these things break you and leave you permanently helpless. Because the thing is, any bad event, circumstance, feeling, experience, all of these things are a gold mine for growth. Any difficulty or challenge that you'll ever face is an opportunity for something if you look for it. And this applies on all levels, from the most simple forms of suffering to the more personal forms of suffering to even the most extreme cases of suffering. So, starting out first with the more simple cases, right? Let's say you're waiting in line, you feel annoyed, you feel impatient, you're tired, and you have to wait for so long, and it's just annoying. And there's an appointment you have to catch up to later, right? Now, it sucks, right, that you have to wait for a long time, but at the same time, if you ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? You could say that this is the perfect opportunity to practice patience, to practice mindfulness, right? Or for our brain rotted youth to expand their attention spans. Don't use your phone. Look around. Look at the sights. Look at the sound. Listen to the sounds. Observe people. See what you can find. Or even just be, you know? But it's an opportunity to learn to wait and to be still without making so much of a big deal out of it. When it comes to failure in any domain, right? A very classic example. Everyone always talks about how you can learn from failure. You can learn why you learned. You can learn why you failed, what contributed to your failure, what you can do moving forward so that you can later on eventually achieve success or get better at the thing that you're doing. When it comes to more personal forms of suffering, let's say to do with our emotions, we all experience negative emotions, right? We are all riddled with emotions like anger, envy, guilt, shame, anxiety, you name it. And the thing is, these emotions suck, just straight up, right? They're very unpleasant. We want to get rid of them. But for a moment, instead of trying to distract yourself from them or trying to numb them, maybe you can explore them, right? Because all of these emotions are great opportunities to get to know yourself better. The, the very great psychologist Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that applies to basically everything in our lives, but it also applies to our emotions, right? We don't know why we feel certain emotions. We don't know why we get hurt by certain things to the degree that we do. There's so much about us that we don't know that directs our life. And because we don't know that, we end up attributing those things to everything around us. We end up attributing those things as us simply being a victim of our circumstances, of the people around us, and that is why we feel the way that we do. But when you start to learn about yourself, when you start to learn where all of these things come from, that is the beginning of you taking control of your life, of yourself, and being able to direct it, right? Instead of being controlled by all these things that you don't understand. When it comes to relationships, right? If we feel mistreated, if we experience conflict, or if we're hurt by other people, these are opportunities to learn very important skills like communication, setting boundaries, learning to walk away, or in some cases, you're gonna see who actually is there for you, who actually loves you, who actually cares about you. In the case that you experience conflict or a falling out with a group, you may see their true colors, and it may have been one of those cases where you dodged the bullet. These experiences aren't great, but you can learn from them and you can use them moving forward for your future relationships with other people. Then, of course, you have very, very extreme forms of suffering that you wouldn't wish upon anyone. And an example I can think of is another famous psychologist, Viktor Frankl. He is a psychologist that went through the Holocaust Nazi camps in Auschwitz. And I think most people are familiar with how brutal the Nazi camps were. The level of brutality and humiliation and physical abuse that took place in those camps is inhuman. And it happened to degrees that most people nowadays can't even comprehend. I can't even comprehend the level of suffering a lot of those prisoners went through. And Viktor Frankl was one of those prisoners. And yet, he was able to use that experience to learn how people can find a sense of purpose in such a hopeless state of despair, in such hopeless circumstances, right? Even in those circumstances, he used that to learn about himself. He used that to learn about others. He used that to find what actually mattered to him in life. And eventually, all of his learnings led to the development of logotherapy, right? That's just an example of how one person could go through such inhuman forms of suffering, and they became so much better because of it. Now, with all of these, right, that isn't to say that suffering is a good thing. That isn't to say that it's okay to go through suffering, or that we suffer for a reason. Because a lot of the time, we suffer for no good reason. Things just happen. We'll encounter bad people, we'll get unlucky. And it's easy to feel sorry for yourself, right? But at the end of the day, it's very important to remind yourself not to waste your suffering. And so, how do we actually make use of our suffering? Well, going back to an idea that I talked about earlier, if there's any one thing that you should take away from this video, it's to develop the habit of asking yourself, anytime a bad experience happens, anytime you feel like shit, anytime you experience difficulties, anytime you suffer, you just ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? Because let's say you feel like shit, right? And you don't even need to do anything about what you're feeling. An opportunity in the case that you feel really bad for reasons that you're not as sure of. It could be as simple as learning to sit with those emotions, learning to be at peace with them, right? At the end of the day, we're all going to suffer, and it's really up to us whether or not that suffering goes to waste. It's up to us whether we find those opportunities. And on that note, another thing that helped me a lot personally is also journaling. Because when you write about your experiences, both positive and negative, you gain a lot of insight as to what you're actually experiencing, feeling, why you're feeling those things. And by writing and reflecting on these, you end up learning from them. And so when you do all of these things, right, you develop the habit of always looking for the opportunity in your suffering, always reflecting and learning from these. Suffering then becomes an opportunity for growth. It becomes a vehicle for growth rather than something that just has an unshakable chokehold on you and you can't do anything about it. That's going to become the case if you let your suffering go to waste. And so, yeah, life is hard sometimes. For a lot of people, it's hard a lot of the time. And it's tough. And my heart goes out to people out there because there are people that suffer in ways that I can't even imagine. But whatever happens, right? I just want to leave you with this message and this reminder that it is hard and you will suffer, and it may not be for good reason. But still, don't waste your suffering. Never waste your suffering. Never waste your sacrifices, your hardships, and your struggles. Because they could turn into something special. And that is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good morning. Have a good morning, my fellow peasants. Peace.